In order to start looking at the income potential of these office and retail spaces that I've defined in the property description, I'm going to go ahead up here and click on tenant and rent roll. Okay, the rent roll is going to define what rents are going to be paid by who and at what time. These are typically leases that are in place for office and retail space. I'm going to just start by defining just some general leases. I'm going to click insert. I'm going to say this is, I'm just going to call office 1. The lease type I'm going to define as office space. There's two ways you can define lease status. I can say that this lease is a contract or a lease that is in space or in place, or I could say that it's speculative, meaning that if it's a speculative lease, I can set up absorption and different types of parameters for whether or not this lease has the potential to become under contract or other parameters that we can define later. I'm going to say for simplicity that this first office 1 is 80,000 or all of the office space that I currently have. I'm going to say that the start date, which is defined as a 2-digit month and a 2-digit year, is going to start right now. I'm going to say for simplicity that it's going to be in place for 15 years, which will be the entire analysis that we're discussing here. Where I live currently and where this property is located is in the Cayman Islands. The base rent, typical rent on a Class A office space is approximately $30 per square foot per year. You'll notice that the default when I entered the $30 as the base rent, it automatically populated the unit of measurement as $1 per square foot per year. There are a number of different ways that you can define rent. This is typically what's used is $1 per square foot for a year. You could also define it as per month. If it was a flat lease, let's say that you're leasing the 80,000 square feet for $250,000 per year, you could define it as an amount. Percentage of market, you could set some market assumptions for what market going rates are, which is something we'll discuss later. Also further defined per square foot per quarter or amount per quarter, just further breaking that down. I'm going to go ahead and use the default as $1 per square foot per year. Rent changes. There are a number of reasons that rent could change over time. There are parameters for these changes that we'll discuss later. I'm going to go ahead and just say no for this, which it'll leave this rent changes blank. If we are going to create some type of sales-based payment for rent, say for instance, percentage of revenue or percentage of profit for the company, we could set up retail sales. There's a number of reimbursements that can be set up. So the operating expenses typically is the way that reimbursements will be set up, whether it be a net basis, which basically means that specific types of reimbursements are passed through to tenants. Typically in the United States, for instance, you would have a triple, what would be called a triple net lease, where the common area maintenance, for example, would be passed through to tenants. Property taxes and insurance are the three that are considered in triple net. So These reimbursements can be defined in the net reimbursements tab that we'll discuss later, or it can be set up as a base stop. Rent abatement, I'm going to set this reimbursements as net. Rent abatement, we could, for instance, typically a property would have a few months, let's say, rent-free, or some type of tenant improvement allowance. It depends on how leases are negotiated, but it's common to have a few months rent abatement, meaning that the tenant is not paying rent. Sometimes tenant improvement allowances and rent abatements are negotiated together, meaning that the property owner will give so many free months of rent rather than paying a lot to extensively fit out the property. I'd say a typical rent abatement where I'm located is about 3 months, so I'm just going to go ahead and put in the number 3, which will assume that there are 3 months, 3 months free. Leasing costs, similar to reimbursements, can be calculated elsewhere. I'm not going to include any at this point. A security deposit typically could be a first month rent. Market leasing assumptions can be set up separately. We'll discuss them later. Upon expiration is very important because it will determine what's going to happen with the cash flow from the specific renter at the end of the term that I've defined over here as 15 years. So after 15 years, whether or not this is going to go back to market with the market assumptions that I will define, in other words, what the next tenant is going to pay. I could also select that the tenant is going to renew. They could vacate. There's a number of different options for selecting what's going to happen upon expiration. If I select option, it'll automatically lead into market leasing assumptions. I'm going to go ahead and tell this. It's going to want me to set a category here, so I'm just going to say yes. You'll see this defined as a separate unit or a separate tenant for taking up the option on the lease. I'm sorry about that, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that this tenant is going to renew the lease. Are you sure you want to change this from option? I'm going to say, okay, I have the second tenant here. I'm going to go ahead and delete the second office 1 tenant. So that's basically how you set up a rent roll for one office property. I'm going to now go through and do a very similar thing for retail. And a very easy way to do that is I'm just going to go ahead and copy the office 1. I'm going to call it retail 1. I'm going to set it up for the retail with the exact same assumptions that we had before, and I'm going to click close.